Hey everybody, I'd like to talk about the concept of mash caps in homebrewing, what they are, why we use them, and their benefits. The main goal of using a mash cap is to reduce your surface area to limit the oxygen ingress into your wort. What you see on the screen right now is a solid mash cap, I would say, meaning that there's no way to pass wort through it. You can see the backside. It's just a nice flat piece of stainless steel. This might be used for anytime you have just still liquid. You can just put a cap on it like that, and it limits the diffused oxygen that passes into the liquid by reducing the surface area. Here's a different design. This one still has the surface area reduction, but it allows you to pass wort through using the barb fitting. This is the bottom side, and you can see it's nice and flat, stainless steel, and we'll get into how these are put together a little later in the video. Here's another one with the barb fitting passing through for the wort. I actually use this for my mash. As you can see, it has a special piece at the bottom that redirects the wort back up when I'm recirculating, and we'll do a little close-up of that here in just a little bit. Here's another cap. This one was a different design. I started with a lid to a boil kettle and tried to bend up the edges, and as you can see, it's not as refined as the ones I purchased. The previous ones were actually cake pans. You can buy them on places like Amazon, and obviously they're a little cleaner than what you come up with when you try to bend the metal around. This one is still fairly flat and it works fine. I use this approach because I couldn't find the exact size of my pot in a finished cake pan, so I tried to bend the edges up. And here we have an example of why it's always best to purchase one rather than try to make one yourself. This was to accommodate my wort chiller, and I tried to do an extreme bend, and as you can see, it just didn't work out too well. Stainless steel can be a pretty tough material to work with depending on the thickness. So if you can, I would say try to find one to purchase before pulling out your pliers. Here's a cap with the barbed fitting removed. As you can see, it's just a hole in the stainless steel. You can use something like a step-up bit or any way to just drill through that material. The hole doesn't need to be exactly perfect. As you can see, I enlarged it a little bit. It basically just needs to let the barbed fitting thread through the hole. Here's another cap with the barbed fitting. This is from the top, and at this point all you have to do is just screw the fitting down in there in the MPT threads. Here's the back side. You can see that I've just threaded a nut and a gasket or O-ring type material, and that forms our seal. Remember, these things only just need to float. They're not under any kind of pressure, so it's a pretty low bar to get one to work. Here's my mash cap, and there's the same approach with the barbed fitting. It's through the hole. Just the shoulder is up on top here. As we move to the back, you can see this one's a little more specialized. My neighbor welded in a piece of stainless steel tubing bend to the barb fitting. You can see it right there, nice weld. And we have the same gasket type material, creating the seal. Okay, now on to how and why we use these. I've put some water in my boil kettle, and we're also going to start a recirculation so we can move some liquid around and demonstrate why we actually use these caps. Okay, I've got the water moving around to simulate a mash recirculation, and basically anytime you have liquid moving, it's picking up oxygen to varying degrees. As the title stated at the beginning of the video, agitation plays a huge role in how much oxygen gets inside your wort. As you can see, as I move the hose around, we have varying degrees of impact. When it's close to the water, it's not adding that many bubbles to the mix. As I lift it up, you can really see the amount of bubbles really goes up. And that's basically how much your wort is going to be oxygenated. Now if I take the hose and submerge it, almost instantly all the bubbles disappear. This is what we're going after when we make a mash cap with any kind of return coming out the bottom. You can see, we take it out, water is highly agitated. Submerge it back underneath and everything calms down. Now I'm going to show you my mash cap. There's the return that would take the wort and submerge it and then push it back up so it doesn't affect the grain bed. I'm going to hook up the recirculation hose and then turn on the pump. And the object is we want to keep the water as still as possible while moving the liquid through. There goes the pump. And you can see everything is nice and calm. We'll look at the return flow. Now this is a lot more force than what happened during a normal mash recirculation. Normally the liquid wouldn't even touch the top of the cake pan. And you can see how calm the water would be at that point. Put the cap back in place, and this would just go for the entire mash. While these things aren't perfect, they're pretty much the best we can do as homebrewers. Next, I'd like to show you what would typically be a sparge runoff or a lauter. So I would take the recirc hose and move it over to another mash cap in a separate pot, and we're just going to run off the liquid, and I'm going to do this through a time lapse too to speed it up for you. Once again, our goal is to move the liquid with as little surface exposure and agitation as possible. Once again, I'm moving the liquid a lot faster than I would during a normal transfer, so you might see a few more bubbles. Here's another cap I'm going to use to bring the liquid back into the boil kettle through a return. Slide it down in the boil kettle. You can see how nicely it fits. As close as you can get it to the size of the pot you're using and still allowing it to float is what we're after. Just a reminder to always use a clip or a clamp on your connections, barbs to hoses. Helps keep any extra oxygen out of the line. And that wraps up mash caps. Basically use them whenever your wort's going to be exposed or you're going to be moving it. Pretty much keep it covered all the way until you pitch your yeast.